Welcome, Army fans. This is Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com, along with Army recruit and safety from Zionsville, Indiana, Max Phenicie. Max, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So, Max, understand you recently had a visit up to West Point. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I was on my official visit last weekend up at West Point, so it was a
Good.
great
Tell us a
time.
little bit about that visit, what you experienced, and what may have excited you about what you saw.
So pretty much we flew into Newark on Thursday afternoon, spent the night in Manhattan, and then the following day, me and other recruits, we kind of just toured around campus. And then the following day was more like a football type day, so we got to see all the facilities and as well as like set in position meetings and watch the lift and stuff like that. The main thing that really excited me about West Point was all the great people that they have there. Not very many people have an ego there, and it's everyone's humble, and I really appreciated that. I really like all the football staff, all the football players. It was great spending time with the players and meeting all of them, and just learning about like all the great history that West Point has and all the success of the cadets that graduate from there. So, yeah.
Awesome. And Max, which coach is primarily handling your recruiting?
Coach Powers is recruiting from my area, and then
He's
for
an
my more
Indiana guy, so
yes, he
got
is.
that in common with
He
him.
went to IU to play quarterback. So it's a funny story. My parents actually met Coach Powers like a year ago on a plane. They happened to sit next to him on a plane, and I had no idea about anything from West Point. Because he was actually at a camp, an IU football camp, just like doing recruiting stuff. And I actually had been at that camp, and I think my mom had recognized her or recognized him from the previous day. And they were sitting next to each other on the plane, and they just got to talking. They talked for the whole plane ride, and my parents got off the flight, and they texted me immediately, and were like, this is pretty serious, cool school, and if you ever have the opportunity, you should definitely take a look at it. And then a year later, it's kind of coming into fruition. So
That
it's
that's a pretty awesome story. That's super
yeah,
unique in the recruiting world, and that's a really cool story. Thanks for telling us that,
yeah,
Max. So, Max, in high school over there at Zionsville High, you're a safety, but
yes,
you're
sir.
being recruited at West Point to play linebacker.
That's right.
Interestingly enough, I'm going to tell you a little story. There's a guy who I'm really good friends with, comes on our
Okay,
rival site, does some post game analysis sometimes, named Alex Ackerman, who's from
okay,
Indiana. And
okay.
Alex was also recruited as a safety, ended
Oh,
up
well,
playing linebacker at Army,
okay,
graduated in 2018, actually got a camp invite from the Saints because he did
okay,
such a good job
awesome.
against Ohio State. They bulked him up to 260. He was
Oh,
about your
wow.
size in high school,
Yeah.
and Connor Hughes and the strength staff got him all bulked up and had a great career. So, and also more recently, Leo Lowen, our
Mhm.
captain last year, went from safety to linebacker as well. So tell me a little bit about that position change and kind of your thoughts around that.
I mean, for me, it's always been my dream and goal my whole life is just play football in college. I tell people it doesn't matter if I'm going to play offensive line, kicker, whatever they move me to, as long as I'm playing in college, it works for me. I'd say I'm a pretty smart kid and can pick up things pretty easily. So I feel like I won't have an issue playing linebacker. And I was able to talk to Coach Juice, and he had mentioned that about how a lot of their current linebackers actually had came and played switched from safety over, and they just put them on a bunch of weight. I mean, most of the schools I was getting recruited by was kind of like that was kind of be my future was moving from safety to kind of like a hybrid safety linebacker type position. And for me, I don't care. I like to hit people, so it works for me. So, but yeah,
That'll suit you well at West Point for sure, and Coach Woody's defense.
that's right.
In fact, they have one position that they call the Apache.
Yeah.
That's kind of very hybrid type position, D back, and we've had a lot of really successful players at that position. Jimmy Charlo, who's with the Jets currently,
Hmm.
was an Apache, so really cool. So getting ready to kind of go into your senior year of high school now, 2025. Tell me a little bit about Zionsville High and academically and athletically, what's prepared you to take on the rigors of a school like West Point potentially.
So yeah, for sure. At Zionsville, it's kind of notoriously known around Indiana for being one of the more harder public high schools. It's kind of like a private school education. I think we've been ranked number one for a couple of years. It kind of shifts around every once in a while, and I've been able to
Cool.
do pretty well. My parents put a big emphasis on getting all A's. B is not acceptable. It's all A's. So it's no matter what you got to do to get that A. So I feel like in
Awesome.
that aspect, I'm definitely prepared, and I'm going to do what it takes to succeed on that level. And then, Zionsville High School, we play in the biggest high school division, probably the hardest conference in Indiana. We're 6A and play all the teams around Indianapolis. And I'd say probably each team has one, two, three Division I athletes on every team. And fortunately, the past couple of years, we really haven't done as well as we all would have liked to. We've had some good classes and weren't able to get it done towards the end of the games. We couldn't finish, and um, hope I'm thinking I believe this upcoming season is going to be a little different. We got some dudes on our team, and I at practice we're flying around making plays, hitting people in the mouth. So it's good for us, and I think we'll be good on that aspect. And I think that'll hopefully carry into my time at West Point. So it's good.
Awesome. And last question for you, Max. So,
Mhm.
I looked at your offer sheet. You've got some really big time offers out there. Notre Dame, West Virginia, I think. A lot of the Ivy League schools. A couple other Power Fives. I think you had a visit to Michigan State, Maryland. What was it about? You kind of already mentioned what excited you about your visit to Army, but what is it about the program at West Point that has you really excited and given Army a serious look at this point?
Well, for me, a big thing for my parents and I is we realize that football doesn't really last forever. If it's hard to make the
Yeah,
NFL. It's NFL, not
yeah,
for long.
yeah,
That's the thing. Even if you're lucky
exactly.
to make it there, and most people don't make it there. So we realized
Yeah,
that you could go to one of those big schools. Probably have a cool football experience, but not may necessarily have that same education to fall back on and the leadership that you learn at somewhere like West Point. And for us, that was a big thing in considering a school. And, I felt like I have been fortunate enough to see a lot of big time schools, and West Point has everything that a Power Five team has, facilities wise and everything like that. And I felt like the people there are good. There's another thing is the big transfer portal, all that stuff. And
right.
West Point
You,
doesn't
you
have to
actually
deal
get to play with guys for 4 straight years at West
exactly,
Point, so that's a little
exactly.
different.
And that's something that I really appreciate. And I mean, that was a big thing as well. And like I said earlier, the people there were unbelievable. There's no one with an ego. They all have the same values that I have, and it felt like the perfect fit for me. I've been visited a lot of different places, and this was kind of the first place that really felt like home to me and my family as well. So I've had a lot of conversations with previous graduates and people that have gone through it, and none of them say they would change a thing. That's one thing I've noticed. And also another cool thing is whenever I walk out in public and I have the Black Knight logo on my shirts, there's people that come up to me and are like, "Do you go there?" I'm like, "Well, not yet, but when I was in the recruiting process, I was like, I'm looking to go there, but I didn't have that from anywhere else, and I thought that was really cool as well. So it's
It's
just
pretty
different.
cool.
That's
Yeah, it's a small school, right? Relatively smaller school with a very small kind of group of alumni. But yeah, when people see that logo, it's amazing. Like everywhere I go, somebody knows
that's right.
somebody. So it's really wild. Yeah, in addition to being a reporter with GoBlackKnights.com, I'm also a grad, so
Okay,
completely
sweet. When did you
understand the
graduate?
concept of 1993.
Okay,
So
that's awesome.
very old grad. A lot of my classmates have kids there now and everything.
Okay,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, there's a good chance you could end up going to school with one of my classmates' kids potentially.
That's
So
awesome. That's great.
yeah. Yeah. So, hey, Max, it was great talking with you. Really appreciate your time. Army fans, hopefully Max will commit relatively soon and we'll be seeing him in the black and gold in a couple of years. This has been Joe Icono along with Max Phenicie, recruit from the class of 2025. Go Army. Be